This is Boeing's 737, and this is the Airbus A320. They're by far the most popular passenger planes sold around the world, with over a fifth of them flying in China, making it a key market.
This is the continuation of a long-term strategy of Airbus in China.
The C919, made by Chinese state-owned aviation company Comac. These planes are expected to enter into service later this year, and state-owned airlines in China have already ordered or expressed interest in more than 1,000 of them. Comac is owned and heavily subsidized by Beijing, and that makes the company potentially the biggest challenge to a duopoly that has dominated the market for over 3 decades. The rise of China's aviation industry is one big reason why the US and the European Union have called a truce on a 17-year tariff fight over government subsidies.
Others are taking the opportunity to launch their own industries, and we have been too busy fighting each other to pay attention.
Technology, their global reach, and growing political support could be some of the answers. Boeing and Airbus have been rivals since the 1960s. Back then, the European company was seen as an overly subsidized laggard, but after 1988, Airbus's A320 allowed it to knock Boeing off the top spot several times. So facing new competition, Boeing nudged the US to start a legal fight in 2004, and then
the EU has today decided to take the United States to the World Trade Organization over the massive subsidies they give to Boeing.
It became the longest and most costly battle in the history of the World Trade Organization, resulting in more than $1 billion in tariffs. Lately, Airbus has pulled ahead of Boeing in terms of orders. That's also because Boeing has been dealing with a major crisis since the grounding of its 737 MAX planes after a string of crashes.
All of us feel the immense gravity of these events across our company.
With both delivering hundreds fewer planes. But there's one market that wasn't doing as badly: China. At one point, China became the world's largest aviation market as the US canceled flights. Now the US and Europe have decided to suspend their trade fight to work together and focus on China.
To confront the threat from China's ambitions to build an aircraft sector,
Airbus told us that Comac could take a share of the single-aisle market by the end of the decade. And in China, that direct competition is about to start.
我们这个国家也是最大的飞机市场。
Since 2008, Comac alone has received between $49 and $72 billion in government aid, according to industry watchers, and has successfully built a regional plane, the ARJ-21. The C919 has cost between $9 to $20 billion to develop. It's designed to directly compete with narrow-body planes like the 737 and the A320, which can handle a range of short and medium-haul routes. The Chinese aircraft is less fuel efficient, has a shorter range, and lacks the global service network of the Western plane makers. But China alone will need some 8,600 planes over the next 20 years, according to Boeing.
I believe their need for aircraft is significant.
And Comac wants to provide many of those. Orders for Western planes from Chinese airlines are much lower than what demand would suggest, indicating that they may plan to buy the C919 instead. China and Russia are now also developing the CR929, a long-haul, wide-body aircraft that should start being built this year. Boeing has been developing planes for over a century and relies on decades of experience and intellectual property to deploy the latest plane technology. Comac is some 90 years younger than Boeing, and its C919 has already faced production delay. Boeing and Airbus have also used their duopoly to create an international network of parts, servicing and mechanics to ensure their planes can operate around the globe. Even if Comac's planes become successful in China, they might be hard to export. Airbus has already received around $13 billion in pandemic bailout support, which it is partly investing into researching hydrogen planes.
One particular technology pathway which we find most promising is hydrogen.
Boeing and Airbus's newfound truce could help them pose legal challenges to Comac while still trying to extract concessions from their own governments to develop new, cheaper, and more fuel-efficient planes. Engines are the hardest part of the plane to build, and the C919 might still be a decade away from flying on Chinese-made propulsion. For now, it uses engines made by General Electric and Safran. The US and the EU don't want to hurt these companies, but geopolitical tensions could eventually reach them too. China has already caught up with the West in many industries, like trains, cars, and digital technology. so the C919 may be a stepping stone to posing a real challenge in aerospace as well. After all, the country can potentially instruct its state-owned airlines to buy as many homemade planes as it desires.